All right, I see the numbers rolling. Hi everyone, welcome to Work in Progress Wednesday, our weekly live video today. I don't have an agenda or a plan. I have been super busy and I have probably 20 or 30 projects going on all simultaneously. And this Ottoman is one of them. Hold on one second.
It's 3:30, really.
Yeah, sorry, love.
I'm out of here.
That's okay. So my mother-in-law shares my sewing space with me, and she's over here, and we have not changed our clock from the daylight savings time, so it still says 2:30. So she is gonna take a little break. See you later, Mom. She's gonna take a break from her sewing machine. Oh, thank you, Hannah. Thank you. My kitchen is a disaster, so my daughter's closing the door for me. Okay, so I started to strip this Ottoman. I've had this Ottoman for months and months. I actually picked it up, I think I picked it up on the side of the road. It was free. I can't remember if I got it. I can't remember where I got it. But anyway, this Ottoman, it's huge. It is, I don't know, I guess this is probably about 42 inches square. And it had these mid-century modern legs on it, and it had these plates that you screw the legs into, and the plates are angled so that the legs attached into the piece like this, not quite that much of an angle, but at an angle so that it had a really, really mid-century modern look to it. And that's not really my vibe. It was at a time, but not so much anymore. And so I took the legs off and I took the plates off. I actually have a set of these plates from another piece of furniture that I took apart and kept the plates because that's what I do. And I have these legs, which are filthy and need to be refinished, but it's gonna be a much more traditional look. They'll stand straight up and down on the Ottoman. And then I ordered these tiny little wood wheels with a brass cup that goes on here. So I'm super excited to get those wheels, and then I'll just drill a hole in there. It has that little metal thing that pokes in there, and then the wheel goes into that. So that will be so that'll give this Ottoman a really traditional look to it. So that's the plan. And I stripped off all of the old fabric already and all of the old Dacron already because I had left it outside and it got rained on. So the fabric and the Dacron was yuck. But the foam is actually still really good. It's in really good condition. It's still firm. It's not disintegrating or anything. So the foam is great. So then a couple days ago, was trying to decide what fabric to use on this, and I was going through my stash, and I've got a ton of fabric under here, and I'm going to use this on my own back patio. So this is going to be mine. And so anyway, I wanted to have something that was fairly neutral, and originally I picked out this fabric, which is let me bring it in closer. I got this fabric from a fabric store called Fabric 5 and Dime, and it's an online closeout or dead stock fabric store, and they actually gifted me this fabric for a project that I did a while back, and it's really, really thick. It's almost like a carpet. It's so thick, and it has this backing on it. Anyways, I was gonna use this, but I'm just short, just barely short of enough fabric to make this happen on this Ottoman. So I went back to my stash, and then I remembered that I had, do we have anybody on live, Hannah? Okay, good. Hi everyone, I'm so glad you're here. Then I remembered that I had this fabric, which I bought this at a thrift store, and it's actually a drapery panel. So I already pulled it apart. I took the lining off of it. You can see it's got a hem in it still, so I need to open that up. And it's a 1.5 widths of fabric. It had a pinch pleat header with buckram and everything, and it's a 1.5 widths, so it seamed right here. And let me show you up close how gorgeous this fabric is. It's a vintage floral print, and it is made by Ingrid. The designer is called Ingrid. Her name is Ingrid Finnan, and it's made for Fifth Avenue Designs, is what it says on the selvage edge. And it's so pretty. I love it, love it, love it. And it's just enough to do this ottoman. And it's enough to do the ottoman. Not sure it would be enough for me to cut welt out of it. It would likely be enough to cut welt if I was going to cut my welt on grain. I almost always cut my welt on the bias, because when you cut your welt on the bias, it makes it so much easier for it to go around curves and corners without bunching and puckering. So I almost always cut my welt on the bias. The only time I don't cut my welt on the bias is if I'm in a situation like this where I only have a very small amount of fabric and I can't cut the welt on the bias, because when you do cut your welt on the bias, it takes up a lot of fabric to cut it triangular like this. So anyways, I'm gonna make my welt out of a contrasting fabric, and I, like 10 minutes ago, went to my stash and I was looking to see what I have that would be a beautiful match to this, or a contrast really. And I pulled out this fabric, which is kind of a beige outdoor fabric, which would make kind of a pretty contrast. Of course, the welt is going to be, tiny. So if you can imagine, just a little bit. But I found this velvet, and I think this velvet is actually going to be perfect. Let me see if I can show you. I think it's hard to picture when you see the whole thing. So let's see. I think it's perfect. Yeah? What do you think? It's hard because when you're only going to see that little bit. It's hard to see on here, really hard to see, but actually in person, it's really gorgeous. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this for my welt, and I've got more of it. I used this to make my, to do a pair of Louis the... You have a question?
Someone said better with the velvet.
Pardon?
Better with the velvet.
Yes,
like
yes.
Velvet, love the velvet.
Velvet it's just luxurious and so pretty. Yes. So I have more of this. I used this to reupholster 2 Louis XVI style chairs, and those are the chairs that I did an upholstery course with. I have a beginner's upholstery course that I sell on my website, and yeah. So if you're interested in that, you can ask me about it in the comments. I'll send you the link to it. But that upholstery course, I do Louis style chairs because that's really the simplest and easiest place to start with upholstery, because there's no loose seat cushions, no loose back cushions. It's just tight and tight and tight. So you can easily get a Louis style chair done quickly, and it'll give you the basics of upholstery. So anyways, on with this project. I am going to go ahead and separate the seam here, and I've got my seam ripper. I'm doing these lives on software called StreamYard, and I did that just basically from a recommendation, but I'm thinking about changing to something where where you all can maybe be live too, like and be able to actually talk more like a Zoom, so that there's a little bit more interaction. I don't know. What do you think about that? I would like it, but tell me what you think, because then you could actually like ask questions out loud, verbally, right? if we were to do like a Zoom type situation. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But
someone said, do you Scotch guard your fabric projects like that? And someone said, I like this format.
okay, so you guys like this format. All right. Uh-oh, my battery is getting low.
If you were to Zoom, you would have to unmute them yourself.
Oh, well, you could do that, couldn't you? So if we did Zoom, then I would be able to see you guys. Not that I would be able to really good see you guys because I wouldn't be able to look, but my daughter could do that, and then you could ask questions out loud. I don't know. We'll just keep going like this for a while and just play it by ear, I guess. Okay, so I separated my two pieces. Now I've got a full 54-inch width of this fabric. And I'll go ahead and lay it out on here. Now, and as you can see, this fabric has a very large pattern. It's likely a 27-inch repeat. So this is something that, let me adjust my camera. Okay. Sorry, everyone. All right, let's see if... All right, I'll just bend down. I'm so used to it. Okay, so I'm going to adjust my pattern on here so that I have one of these large, so this is a half drop pattern where this is a pattern right here, and then there's a pattern, a full pattern here and a full pattern here. So it's an offset pattern. So I'm gonna do it so that I have this full floral pattern right in the center of my ottoman. And I want to try to conserve as much fabric as I can, but sometimes there's just no two ways about it. You have to put your pattern in the center. Oh, and you know what? I think my scissors, my sewing scissors are actually in my car. Oh. I've had a job at a shopping mall where I'm having to do some odd jobs preparing for Easter over there, and so I've had to bring all my tools. Okay, so there's my pattern. I'm going to just inspect it. I'm looking at it upside down right now. And now it's right side up. And I see that I've got, okay, so this flower here, so it's a little bit low on this side. So I need to adjust this. Okay, that looks good. Although there's a flower and there's a matching flower, and this one's much closer to the corner. So I'm going to bring this whole pattern over to the left a bit. And now if you're a new upholsterer, obviously the easiest thing that you could do is use a solid fabric, because then there's no pattern matching. Yes, no, those aren't them. Let me see. Oh yeah, my ribbon came off. Thank you, Hannah. No, those aren't them, but we'll work with them. They're exactly like this, but they have a pink ribbon on them. No, that's fine, Hannah. You're good. Okay, so let's see. Do I have a good... Yes. So this flower is about the same as that flower. And that looks good. Okay, so... And this fabric has a little bit of a grain line to it. It's a linen, so I can actually see the grain lines in the fabric, and that's important that you get those straight and square on your piece, because if it is a little bit wonky or cockeyed, your fabric stretches on the bias, and what'll happen is if your fabric is attached to your piece crooked, over time with people sitting on it and utilizing it, your fabric could eventually start to ripple a little bit because it's stretching. So that's why it's important that it's straight and square on your piece, so that it's stretched square, basically. Okay? All right, so let's see where All right, so I'm going to attach my first bit of fabric here, and then I'll welt it, and then we'll put the bottom piece of fabric here, and then I'll probably welt the bottom as well. But before I do that, so I need to cut my fabric. Okay, we look good. This is where I've got the most, and this is where I've got some. Okay, so let's see how these scissors work. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna need to match the pattern over the edge here and on the other side. Which I may or may not be able to do, because looking at this pattern here, I'm not going to be able to match that pattern until this next drop. Oh, which is actually way down here in the hem. So I'm probably going to have to open up the hem and hope that this bottom piece doesn't leave too bad of a crease here in order to match the pattern. I'm going to have to use some of the hem fabric for this, likely, in order to match that, because the next, I don't know if you can see that, you can't see the pattern, but this is the whole pattern, and this is where it repeats. So this is the top of the next pattern, so this flower down here is going to be my next repeat, and I'm going to have to match this right here. And so that means that basically all this fabric ends up being waste, which is also another reason why solid fabric is better to work with, because you don't have nearly as much waste as with a patterned fabric. Pardon me?
The scissors.
Yeah, the scissors are actually really nice. I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll set this aside, and we'll cut the other side. Okay. So same thing here. I'm likely not going to be able to match. I might be able to use this off-cut piece to bring it back to here, and it'll be a little bit off, but I think it might be close enough that it'll be okay. And you know, since this is for me and going into my family room, it's fine. It's not going to be a perfect pattern match, but we'll make it as good as we can. And feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions if you have any questions. Okay, so that's cut to size. I'll cut that a little bit later. But now we've got to go ahead and attach the dacron. So hopefully I have enough.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Someone said, will you pre-sew the fabric panel for the wooden base to pull up to staple, or staple directly over a dacron?
I'll staple directly. So I'm gonna put my dacron on here to here, and then staple my fabric, and then I will put a strip of dacron separate here, and then put my fabric over it like that. Okay, so this is all I have left of my roll of dacron. It was like this big around to start with, and I used a boatload of it for a channel tufted headboard recently. Okay. So, now I'm not sure if I want to do that. Now that that question has been posed, I'm wondering if I should just go ahead and, I think I'm going to go to here. Yeah, I'll just. Actually, I might as well go all the way to the bottom because I think it'll get me. Let me measure. Oh my. Oh. And my tape measure. You should see my cutting table. Look at this cutting table. No?
Not in a minute.
Oh, okay. I have so much stuff on my cutting table, including my iced coffee. I've got paint. It's a disaster, so I can't find anything right now. I've got so much going on. It's a mess. All right, so if I bring this all the way to the bottom, let's just flip it and see if it'll make it to the other side. And if that's the case, then I'm going to do that because then I don't have to cut off any and waste. Yeah, okay. And you know what I will probably do is I will probably add another piece of Dacron to the wood edge. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the Dacron right to the edge of the wood. And the edge there. All right, and then we'll staple. And I usually use 3/8 inch staples for just about everything. Unless I'm going through something really thin or really thick, I might change to a 1/2 inch staple if I need to go through many layers. When I made the channel tufted headboard, I did switch to a shorter staple. Okay, and I'll just cut this off. And usually for cutting Dacron, you don't want to use your fabric scissors because Dacron dulls your scissors really fast. Trying to do this without getting in front of the camera. Not easy. Are you able to see everything okay, Hannah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, just enough Dacron. we've gotten very familiar with Chick-fil-A iced coffee. We had a Chick-fil-A open up right there around the corner from us. So we've been drinking a little more iced coffee than usual.
Comment down below if you want another order.
Pardon me?
I said comment down below if you want another order. Someone said, do you overlap the Dacron in the middle of the cushion top? Or
No.
between it?
Nope, you just butt them right up against each other on the top center. Don't overlap or you'll have a little bit of a lump. And you could go ahead and just do a quick basting stitch on here. And as a matter of fact, I should have glued this. And what I'll do, I think right this minute, I already did that. Yep, I'm gonna go grab my glue because I should have glued this down. I don't know what I was thinking. So I just use Gorilla spray adhesive because I don't do that much upholstery. The only upholstery that I really do is for myself. I once in a while will do a piece for somebody else, but I'm really a slipcover maker. Upholstery, I just don't do a lot of it. I don't do it for hire is what I should say. I worked for an upholsterer in his shop for a couple of years, and I just did that as a temporary thing because he needed some help. He was short a worker, and so I worked for him for a couple of years, and we had a gentleman's agreement, basically, kind of a unwritten gentleman's agreement that I would send him all my upholstery inquiries and he would send all of his slipcover inquiries to me. And so that's just the way we operated for years. And actually that started with my mom. When my mom was making slipcovers still, they had the same agreement. And so that's why I have not done upholstery day in and day out. And so Rodrigo didn't use this. He had a 5-gallon bucket of adhesive and he would spray it through a sprayer using his air compressor because, you know, when you're doing that much upholstery, that's what you do. So anyways, my upholstery knowledge, I learned upholstery initially from an adult night school in the town over from mine. I was already making slipcovers, but I was like, you know what, I want to learn upholstery just for myself because I wanted to do a few pieces for my own house. So I took this class at an adult night school, and then it was like shortly after that I started working at my friend's shop for him. It was actually my good friend's husband that ran the shop. And so then I continued learning from him, and he was a master upholsterer, the best in town for sure. He was so skilled. He'd been doing it for years and years and years. I mean, his whole life, essentially. And he was, at that time, in his late 60s. So he just knew everything, and he taught me a lot. Although, you know, I was mostly just the tear-off person in his shop, so I didn't do staples. I didn't do hardly any cutting of fabric. I would sometimes put pieces back together, but he would he would cut all the fabric because he did a lot of very expensive fabrics. So I'm not, I mean, I know my way around upholstery, but I'm not like the expert of all experts. So that's why I often forget to do things like glue down my dacron. So, all right, better. Now it's glued down. We're not going to have shifting dacron. Let me trim off this end here. So when you're doing your own pieces, it's a good idea as you're stripping your piece to take pictures of the way that it was put together originally if you're new, because then you can reference those and look back at it and see how it was put together. And then especially if you're going to be doing pieces for other people, because you always want to put the piece back together the way that it was, unless you get permission from your client or whatever to do it differently, which, yeah. So it's good to take pictures as you go before you strip it all down so that you know how to put it back together. And now this piece I'm doing completely different than the way it was, because it had a gray, kind of a gray tweedish fabric on here that looked very mid-century, and it was button tufted, and it had square panels, tufting sewn together, and I just don't like that look, so I'm changing the look completely. But this is for me, so I could do that. Oh, what did I do? Okay, we got a flower here and a flower here. Flower here and here. Got plenty on each side there. Okay, so I need to come down this side a little bit more here. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to start out by putting a temporary tack in the center of all four sides. And what I mean by a temporary tack or a temporary staple is we're going to put the staple, normally you would push your staple gun in flat on your piece of wood and push it hard so that it goes in all the way. We're not going to do that. We're going to angle our staple gun to the side and put that staple in sideways. So I'll show you close up. So normally you would push real hard and flat with your staple on your piece like that. But we're going to do a temporary tack. So we're going to push sideways with our staple gun like this, so that only one leg of the staple is going to go in fully. The other leg of the staple is going to stay out of the piece. So it'll just be sticking out ever so slightly, because very oftentimes these first few staples have to be taken back out and adjusted. And you want to be able to just grab a hold of that one staple leg that's sticking up in order to be able to take it out easily. So that's a temporary tack. And if it turns out that that temporary tack is just right, you can just hammer it in or take it out and put a new one. But likely those temporary tacks are going to have to come out. Okay. And when you're smoothing your fabric and holding it here in order to staple it, you really want to use your whole hand for this and hold it like, I'll do this hand so you can see it. Oh boy, my battery's getting low. We might have to cut short a little bit here because my battery's low. You want to use your whole hand here and hold the fabric down like with your whole finger, like this. Like you're gonna smooth it down and hold that fabric with your whole finger here so that you're not just holding it with like one thumb and getting kind of a pucker and a real tight spot there. There's a little bit of finessing with upholstery. Okay. All right. So now we're going to work from the middle staples to the corners. And when you're doing this, you want to pull down and out towards the corner. Is there a question? No? Okay. And I might have to change this over to my sawhorses because it's really wobbling on here. Stabilize it with my leg. Okay. I'm going to try to do this so you can see. And I'm going to bring it almost to the corner, and then I'm going to go from here to this to that side, and then I'll go to the other side before I address any of the corners. And when you're looking at your fabric, particularly if you're using a linen like this, you can kind of see some of the grain lines of the fabric, and it's important to keep them nice and straight. See, I can already see I'm going to have to take out that center staple and tighten it up. But this kind of a Ottoman is a really simple place to start with upholstery, or a headboard would be a really simple project as well. Thank you, Hannah. She's plugging in my camera for me. So I'm looking at that and looking at the grain line, and I can see that it's pretty straight. Now I'll swing it around and do the opposite side. Oh, yeah. I need to switch this. Let's see. I'm gonna have to do it like this with this hand because I can't. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go this way so you can still see. There we go. That's better. Okay, let's see that, yeah.
why you cut the two sides shorter than the others?
I actually didn't cut them that way. It's just that I did not cut off these two sides. This is actually selvage to selvage. So I just didn't cut that yet. I'll cut it off after it's... That was the long side, I think. Yeah. And the reason why I cut them so short is, and I probably could have left myself a little bit of extra on these sides, but I wanted to save as much fabric as possible for matching pattern for the boxing part. So that's why I cut these so short, because I have no extra fabric. I just had the one curtain panel, so. Okay. I think I got that one a little bit too tight. I can kind of see let's see.
Someone said, I've seen hand-stitched corners to make them tight and hidden. Is that necessary or just a fussy option?
No, it kind of is necessary, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that, because I do plan to do that. I'm getting a little tight here. Because what happens is when you do your corners, we're going to do a folded corner here, and what will happen is, I'm just going to show you real quick. If you have it folded like that, it looks nice, fine, but then when you put some pressure on it, it will open up that corner. So that's why it's nice to have that sewn shut. It's not completely necessary, but it does just bring it up a notch so that when the piece is being used, if somebody kneels on it or sits on it right here, or you set something on it, that doesn't gape open. That's why. So it's just a nice finishing touch. All right, so let me see if I can pick up the pace here so that we can get to a corner. A little lumpy there, but that's because I don't have a staple right here. Okay, so we're here at a corner. Let me go up to this corner here. There's a few different ways that you can do corners. You can do like a V corner, which is where you, and this actually might lend to a V corner, to be honest, because it's such a rounded corner here. So we could potentially just do a V corner here, and then we could also do a folded corner, but I feel like I need more padding in there. My foam really should have been hanging over the edge a little bit more. Whenever you put your foam on top of your wood frame, your foam really should hang over by like 1/4 of an inch over the edge. So if you're ever cutting foam specifically for your piece, let it hang over a little bit. What's the question?
Are you stapling into the foam right now?
No, I'm stapling into this there's a piece of wood here. And it's, it's actually right there. That's the top of it. So that's what I was doing that whole time, is kind of feeling that piece of wood, and you can feel it with your finger as you go so that you're stapling right underneath the top edge of that wood. And that's how after you do this for a while, you'll see that all furniture is built pretty much very similarly, if not exactly the same.
Someone wants the camera closer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm sorry, I should have moved it closer. So, yeah. Good. I'll do that. Perfect. Okay. All right. So, yeah, so that's what I'm moving my thumb against the very top of that wood, and I got really crooked here. I should have been stapling closer to the top of that wood. But that's what I'll do after this, as I'll mark the top of that piece of wood, so that when I put my welt on here, I'll put my boxing piece of fabric first. Maybe what I'll do is I'll hold this until next week, and we'll do this next part on next week's live, because we're already about 45 minutes in. But let me show you the corner up close, because that was the part I think you were... Let me see if I can even zoom in. Can I zoom in on this? Oh, I can. Okay. All right. So what I was saying earlier is you can do like a V corner here, which is where you take those two gathers, those two side pieces, and overlap the center piece, and we'll put a staple there, and then it can be like that. That's uneven, but that way. And then there's also the fold over, which is like that. And I'll need to get my regulator in order to make that. So this, I believe, is just a neater look, and I prefer that, and then stitch that shut. So you see what I mean? The question earlier was, do you stitch that? I'm pretty sure that was the question, correct? And what do you need to stitch that? And the only reason why I think you do is because when you put weight on it, it opens that up. And this way it'll be stitched shut, always nice and neat. So, go ahead and and staple around the edge. All right. Where's my regulator? Ugh, my tools are a mess. I don't know where my regulator's at. But you can use a flathead screwdriver just to get that tucked in and nice and neat. And then we'll stitch that. And you'll get a nice, neat corner there. So, let's see, do we have this one ready? No. All right, so I think maybe we'll call it a day there. Or maybe I guess I can, how much time do we have? 10 minutes? We can go from here to here, and I'll do this corner. Let's do that. And then next week, I will just leave this as is. I'll go ahead and make the welt out of that contrasting fabric. I'll show you real quick. Where did that go? We'll see how that looks. So it'll be just this small bit of welt here. Ooh, I love it. I think it's perfect. So I'll make the welt ahead of time, and then I'll show you how to mark this so that it's nice and straight. We'll attach the fabric, the welt, maybe another piece of boxing, and then we'll staple that. So we'll do that next week. So let me see if I can get this done here in the next 10 minutes, and we'll try to get to this corner. Are you able to see? Are you able to see? Or is my head blocking everything? Okay. And I'm working on trying to get my microphone fixed. Or not my microphone fixed. I got a new microphone, but I haven't figured out how to hook it up to my camera yet. It won't recognize it for some reason. So I need to get that done so that I'm not having to yell. I feel like I'm having to yell in order to be heard. So sorry about that. And I really shouldn't have done the background like that. All right, that looks pretty straight. All right. Alrighty. I came in too tight with that last staple. Trying to be in a hurry and okay. Okay, so sometimes when you come around the corner, you need to put a staple here underneath your pleat and then fold back over the top of that staple like so. And this is where you really corners. So let me see if I can bring you in close to see that, and then we'll call it a day. Oh, did I get disconnected there for a second? It said reconnected.
It's kind of laggy, but
okay. All right, let me see if I can show you in close on this. Okay, it looks like we're connected again. All right, so here's the corner, let's see. And here's the other corner. It's hard to see because of the pattern, and my staples are all crooked, but that's okay. We're gonna come in with the welt right here next week, and then we'll put the boxing piece on, then the welt. Anyways, all right, so that's where we'll call it a day today. I hope that there was something in there that you could take away from this live today. Anyways, it was so good to be here. Thank you for coming to the live, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. We'll pick up right where we left off. So, bye, y'all.